Fifth. I'm trying. All right, we're live, people.
Let me see.
Allegedly. Hopefully.
Is it on Carolina Poets?
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll find it.
Yep, I can see everybody. Oh. Yep, I can see everybody. Oh. All right, here we go. All right, welcome everyone to Hashtag Poetry Goes Viral, sponsored by Carolina Poets. This is a bi-monthly series. We are here the second and fourth Thursdays of each month. I am your special guest host, Len Lawson, and I'd like to thank the Carolina Poets curators, Kimberly Sims Gibbs and Andrew K. Clark, who host the series, for inviting me to host this week. We are streaming tonight on the Carolina Poets Facebook page and the Carolina Poets YouTube channel, so you can find us in both places if you wish. For this series, we've been fortunate enough to have readers such as Jackie Shelton Green, Dorianne Lux, Tyree Day, Raina Shirley, myself, and many others. If you've missed our readings this past year, they're archived on the Carolina Poets Facebook page and the YouTube channel. For each reading, we feature 3 poets with connections to the Carolinas or one of our southern neighbors. We feature established poets and emerging poets. Tonight, we're featuring 3 dynamic poets who I'm really excited about. We'll hear from Ashley M. Jones, Diamond Forde, and Cortney Lamar Charleston. If you have any questions in the audience, you're welcome to leave comments during the broadcast, and we'll hopefully get to them. We'll have a brief Q&A session at the end. So here we go. I'm going to start us off with Ashley M. Jones. Ashley received an MFA in poetry from Florida International University, where she was a John S. and James L. Knight Foundation Fellow. Her poems and essays appear or are forthcoming in many journals and anthologies, including CNN, the Academy of American Poets, Poetry Magazine, Tupelo Quarterly, Prelude, Steel Toe Review, Fjord Review, Quiet Lunch, and Hand in Hand Poets Respond to Race, which I had the pleasure of editing myself. She received a 2015 Rona Jaff Foundation Writers Award and a 2015 B Metro Magazine Fusion Award. Her debut poetry collection, Magic City Gospel, was published by Hub City Press here in South Carolina, where I am, in January 2017, and it won the silver medal in poetry in the 2017 Independent Publishers Book Awards. Her second book, Dark Thing, won the 2018 Lena Miles Weaver Todd Prize for Poetry from Pilates Press. And her third collection, Reparations Now, all caps, exclamation, is forthcoming in fall 2021 from Hub City Press. She won the 2018 Lucille Clifton Poetry Prize from Backbone Press, and she is the 2019 winner of the Lucille Clifton Legacy Award from St. Mary's College of Maryland. She's also a member of the core faculty at Commerce College Low Residency MFA here in South Carolina. And she has been a guest editor this year for Poetry Magazine, which it has been amazing. So without further ado, Ashley M. Jones, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Len, for having me. Thanks to the series for having me. So I have planned tonight to read 8 poems in 20 minutes. We'll see if I make it. All from my forthcoming collection, Reparations Now, which will be coming out on September 7th. It's available for pre-order now from Hub City Press, as Len said. So I wanted to do something a little different for me. Maybe it's not different for people who have a lot of happiness in their lives, but I wanted to start with love, which I never do. And this poem is one that came out of listening to Al Green. He has a song called Simply Beautiful, and the opening lyrics are, "If I gave you my love, I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd expect a whole lot of love out of you." And something in that if seemed very full, and I wanted to write into that if. What lives in the if in Al Green's Simply Beautiful? In the room of my love, there is a whole world. There is a bass guitar that plays all by itself. There is fire in the hearth crackling, and there is a brown hue all over. That's my skin. My skin and my love are inseparable. In the room of my love, there is a growl and a giggle. There is a never-ending meal. Cornbread and collard greens and ham hocks and neck bones and sweet potato pie and mac and cheese, the good kind, not the kind at church or the kind that one aunt swears is good, or the kind in a blue box, and potato salad, barbecue ribs, coleslaw, baked beans, corn on the cob, pound cake, all on the same plate, and grape Kool-Aid, and spring water, and broccoli and cheese casserole, and fried chicken, and smothered pork chops, and sausage and gravy, and pancakes and butter. And in the room of my love, there is room, maybe for you, but only if Al Green is playing, and only if your hand is shaped, love, like a key. So I'm going to move into another kind of love, which is the love shared between Black people. And there's this thing that we do, and I don't know that other people do this, but I know Black people do. When you're out somewhere and you see a Black person running, if you're Black, usually you will begin to also run. And so I learned a fact about sharks that kind of reminded me of that, and I wanted to write about it. This poem is called Sharks, and it begins with 2 little epigraphs. Sharks. Dead sharks emit a pheromone that turns off a live shark's feeding impulse and warns them of potential danger. For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them. That's from the Bible, I should say. Orca, shark killer. Orca, big as a nation. Orca, they who always shooting up the block. Orca with a blue and red flag. Orca who floss with shark liver. Dead shark, siren. Dead shark gave his life so other shark may live. Dead shark, a sort of messiah. Two or more gathered, God. Two sharks smelling death. Two sharks still alive, still blessed. One black person's fear, siren. One black person running. Two black people running. Two or more black people running. We all running, so help us God. We all running. We know it's danger close. We can smell the blood, even if it don't show up red on our hands. So this next poem, Len knows already. It's about Superman and Lois Lane. And I will say something that's been so interesting to me is that in this early stage of grief, I'm grieving the loss of my father right now. And in these early months, it's only been 2 months, maybe we're entering now the third, I have gone back to my usual anxiety response, which is to binge watch some show from my childhood that makes me feel, safe, secure, and like I'm still a child. And so recently I've been binging Batman, the animated series, and now Batman Beyond, and they have been a balm to me in some strange way, maybe because Bruce Wayne, lost his parents, and Terry McGinnis lost his dad. And I get to see them sort of live through it. And there's a lot of life lessons in those shows. If y'all have not watched them, if you're not a 90s kid, like I urge you to watch them or let your children watch them, because there's a lot of life in those 90s cartoons. But this poem is about Superman, who is not my favorite superhero. Batman probably is. I guess of the white superheroes. If we're going black superheroes, it's Black Panther. Anyway, so this poem is about Superman and Lois Lane. And there's this issue of the Lois Lane comic book series, number 106, where she turns into a black person. And you can read it online. If you search Lois Lane turns black, you should be able to find some scans of it. But it's really wild. Like, it doesn't really make any sense. She's like trying to win a Pulitzer Prize because she works at the Daily Planet. And she's like, I got to do something gritty and hard hitting. So she decides to go to Little Africa. That's their, slum area. And nobody wants to give her the time of day because she's this random white lady. And so she goes into this transformation chamber and comes out black. And then she sees, the other side of life. People talk to her. And there's this point in the comic book where she, as her black self, asks Superman, could you love me like this? And he gives a very non-committal answer, as he is wont to do. So I decided to take that very strange comic book and turn it into a poem. I used in the poem the actual words from the comic book. So they're in sequence where they appear. So if you were to read the comic, you would see all these words happening, in a particular order. So, and I added like maybe 2 words of my own, but everything else in the comic book. Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 106. On this daily planet, my life is good luck. All supermen at my service. I should get the Pulitzer Prize on the backs of Metropolis's black community. Wait. Tenements perplex me. How can I break through this plague? Their suspicious speech, these slick-mouthed babies and their knock slam slang. Homeless ghosts on this daily planet. What is the reason for their weary report? Look how the sun shines sweet and pretty on their rat-infested slums. It's okay. I'm right. I'm whitey. Never forget. Little Africa is dejected, a neighborhood of frustration. I'll step into this machine and transform, a startling switch. Black for a day only. The hum zoom of the world staring. The smoke of white fragility, its gloomy fire trap. Black is beautiful. Have you met it before, reporter? The eternal struggle of life against death by darkness. A life of please, look me straight in the eye. The constant confrontation of being Black and alive in a white man's world. a universal outsider, so alien, even Superman couldn't risk loving you. All right. Yeah, I see Courtney saying Batman the animated series is tops. It is. If you have not watched it, it's on HBO Max. If you stream things, it's fantastic. So now, a poem about God. God made my whole body, and the way it moves, and the way it shakes and jiggles and plops. And God made my smile, and the 1,000 tears that fall from my eyes. God made the sun and the moon, and the leaf held loosely in my godson's perfect little hand. And God made the summer breeze, and the guitar Ron Isley crooned over. And God made the grass, and the bugs, and the dogs, and the trees. And God made all of our bodies to make waste. And God made even the waste that lives in us. And God made the way the world spins, and the way it will shake us right off if we don't act right. And God made the rivers, which make it possible for us to drink. And God made the clouds, which hold the rain. And God made the birds, which fly, and the wolves that howl. God made the folds of my brain, and the thoughts that burrow there. God made my belly, my uterus, and all the little eggs, which might become children. God made the doubt that rests there, like bubbling gas. God made the silence I wrap around myself some nights alone. God made the music we sing and the music we hate. God made the ears which help us stay balanced, help us to hear what people say behind our backs and in front of them. God made sweet potato pie and aunties and mamas who know how to add just enough nutmeg. God made my whole body. And God made my grandma and her gold tooth. And God made my grandma and her curly wig. And God made my grandma I didn't know. And God made my grandpa who was a ghost. And my grandpa who was a terror. God made fear and the way it slices us up thin and flimsy. God made the way a hand quivers before it strikes. God made pain. God made the blood which runs and keeps us running. God made an everlasting red. All right. We're halfway through. I think I'm going to make it in my 20 minutes. I'm going to read a piece now about my mom. And this is about, hearing her talk to her sisters on the phone. I am an eavesdropper because I am a writer, or just because I'm nosy, whichever, maybe both. But I always love just listening to her, or even to my dad, when he was here talking to his family, just because of the way that they use the English language. I really love how Southerners and how Southern Black people specifically make the language sing. So this is about her. Obad, my mother calls home. And is softer, sweeter than yes. Out of my mother's mouth, it's a song. How beautiful, this flavor of English, best served over the phone, best from mother, now miles and miles away from home. Greensboro and its clay, its quiet constellation of field flowers, the unrelenting glow of porch lamps, lemons filled with light. The sun is a dull bulb in comparison. Today, I wake to my mother's voice, her sister on the other side of the line. There's a comfort in knowing this language can stir the air until it feels like a mother's tongue, comfortable enough to drop some R's. So we're on the last three pieces. And yeah, okay. So I don't know my page numbers by heart to any of my books. I don't know any writers who know their page numbers by heart. So I always have to double check my little list here. But this poem is one I think I've literally never read out loud, and I don't know why. But anyway, this is a poem that I wrote after hearing Kimberly Daniels, who I think is a representative of something. I can't remember what state, but anyway, she's a Black woman, and she said in 2018, and it went viral, she said, "I thank God for slavery. If it wasn't for slavery, I might be somewhere in Africa worshiping a tree." And there was a lot that I found problematic about that statement. For one, I don't think there's any shame in Africa or our origins or the religions of that continent. I don't think there's any shame in, oh, thank you. Yes, for letting me know. Florida, of course it's Florida. No shade, Florida, but y'all know it's wild down there. Yeah, there's no shame in Blackness of any kind, but there's, of course, shame in what has been done to us. And even the fact that she would say this thing is a result of some trauma, maybe the trauma of being here and knowing the history. I don't know. I don't know Kimberly Daniels. I can't speak for her. But I was very upset when I heard this, and I thought immediately of the trees and how trees are also holy. And I thought about how trees have been used to harm us. I thought about lynchings, and how it's not the tree's fault what was done, on their branches. They were still trying to hold us, even in that moment of murder. It wasn't the tree's fault. The tree is something to love. So I wanted to sort of reclaim the idea of the tree and even the idea of the lynching tree. So I also, in the epigraphs of this poem, I used Daniels's quote, but also this lynching postcard, poem that was very popular in the year 1908. And I'll read that little poem and then I'll read mine. The Hymn of the Dogwood Tree, which is the title of my poem and this poem I'm going to read. This is only the branch of a dogwood tree, an emblem of white supremacy, a lesson once taught in the pioneer school that this is a land of white man's rule. The red man once in an early day was told by the whites to mend his way. The Negro now by eternal grace must learn to stay in the Negro's place. In the sunny South, the land of the free, let the white supreme forever be. Let this a warning to all Negroes be, or they'll suffer the fate of the dogwood tree. Let us praise the roots and the leaf. Praise the dangling branch. Praise the tender throat, the wailing neck. Praise. Let us gather at this dogwood altar. Praise each vein and the blood, the blood. Jesus, call us home and whole. Even here we praise. Praise each shaking branch, the sigh of the bark rubbed raw. Dark southern trees, so far from our faraway home. Praise each dogwood, oak, the pine of the slave ship's never-ending hull. Let us praise, Lord. This tree holds us up, 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 so heaven's not too far away. Up so high, they mistake our praise for cries. All right, last two. Last two poems. Hopefully y'all are enjoying it out there in real time, or if you're watching this back from the future, hope you're enjoying it. So I'm going to end with some poems that maybe can serve as explanation for those who think we don't need to learn critical race theory. I don't personally know anybody who believes this. personally, okay, because I keep my circle, full of sense. So, but for some people who are confused and don't understand that critical race theory simply allows us to learn real history, here are two poems that maybe will help with that thought process. So the first one is a sonnet, which is in response to this idea that I have come across in my pre-COVID travels across the country. People would find out, that I was from Alabama, and they would say, "Ooh, are you all right? Are you okay down there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm living in the same country as you. I'm as all right as I could be. Because people would mistakenly believe that in the South, that's the only place in America where there was any discrimination, any racism, anything. And that's just not true. We can trace all these discriminatory laws, practices, what have you, all the way back to the formation of this country and even before. So this poem just sort of pushes back on that idea. And also, I can assure you, everybody in the United States of America has a tie to Alabama. I feel like we are the origin of everything here. And I mean, if you look back in your family, or maybe it's just you look one generation behind, there's somebody from Alabama. Maybe you're from Alabama out there somewhere. So the title is a play on that too. And it opens with a quote from Dr. King. "All y'all really from Alabama. The straitjackets of race prejudice and discrimination do not wear only Southern labels. The subtle psychological technique of the North has approached in its ugliness and victimization of the Negro, the outright terror and open brutality of the South." Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Why We Can't Wait. This here, the cradle of this here nation. Everywhere you look, roots run right back south. Every vein filled with red dirt, blood, cotton. We the dirty words you spit out your mouth. Mason-Dixon is an imagined line. You can theorize it or wish it real, but it's the same old ghost, see-through, benign. All y'all from Alabama. We the wheel turning cotton to make the nation move. We the scapegoat in a land built from death. No longitude or latitude disproves the truth of founding fathers' sacred oath. We hold these truths like dark snuff in our jaw. Black oppression's not happenstance, it's law. And the final poem is one which seeks to tell the story of, I guess, how the Western, nations were made, specifically America, and it's called Manifest Destiny. And so he learned that the land could be called a name, so he called it mine. And so he learned it could be bordered with blood, and so he called it conquest. And he learned that the land was willing to give fruit and flower, and he called it profit. And so he saw some other folk planting and praising, and he called them enemy. And so he saw there were armies to guard those flowering folk, and he called them prey. And so he saw the ocean, and what was it but a highway to make more borders? And so he saw the bright and peaceful sea, and he littered it with trade. The bodies stacked next to the crops, the textiles, and the rot of disease. And so he ground hope and God into dust and called it rights. And so he heard the wind blowing joy over its people, and he sliced it up with law. And so he kept slicing for 500 years. And so he built his things around him, and so his coffers never emptied. And so he took wives and made children, and so he gave them too a price. And so he saw each blade of grass and counted it as currency. And so his blood was transfused with gold. And so he built a wall around himself to keep his many riches in, the walls encased with bone, even his heart, a fortress of muscle and money. Listen now, your past and future generations. Your hoarded hall will spoil where you stand. Thank y'all.
All right. Ashley M. Jones, everyone. Thank you. Some of Alabama's finest there. All right. So we're going to keep moving. Our next poet is Diamond Forde. Diamond Forde's debut collection, Mother Body, is the winner of the 2019 Saturnalia Poetry Prize. She has received numerous awards and prizes, including the Pink Poetry Prize, the Furious Flower Poetry Prize, the CLA's Margaret Walker Memorial Prize, and placed in the Frontier Poetry's New Poets Award. She's a Callaloo and Tin House Fellow whose work has appeared in Massachusetts Review, Ninth Letter, Nell, Tupelo Quarterly, and more. Diamond also serves as the assistant editor of Southeast Review and the fictionary editor of Nat Brute. And we found out through talking that she is also a postdoctoral fellow at UNC Asheville. So we're glad to have her in the Carolinas. So everyone, welcome Diamond Forde.
Thank you so much, Len. Hi, everybody. I'm hoping that you're having an amazing time. Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your incredible poems. If you missed, I see somebody in the comments kind of lamenting missing Ashley. It's totally okay. This is recorded. You'll be able to see Ashley and her amazing poems after. Thank you so much for tuning in, Len. Thank you for the introduction. Ashley, Courtney, what a big honor to read with you guys. I'm going to hop right in to some poems. The poems that I'm going to be reading, I think most of them will probably come from my book, Mother Body, that just came out with Saturnalia books this year. I'm not very good at banter, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump in if that's cool. I'm going to start with the first poem in the book, Blood Ode. Fat girl nicks herself shaving in the shower, resents the water that will carry her blood to sea. Blood, worthless currency, cannot buy a country but becomes it, platelets stitching into streets. Fat girl weeps for the blood that won't return. Many mothers have tried such a homecoming, sons and daughters inking the tarry streets. Fat girl becomes a mother through her looking, has seen too many children mangled by a sense of justice. She carries somebody's child in the craters their death creates inside her. If she could just reach deep enough, if she could piecemeal her own plump, how many layers would it take to make a bulletproof lung? Fat girl mourns, the blood muling a persistent path through the drain pipes. If blood must be taken, let there be coral glittering like gemstones at their feet, dolphins pitching foam in arcs out from the sea. Let there be air enough. Fat girl could be a mother, fretting the impossible journey of her blood. Ode to Magic, which starts off with a quote from Little Kim's Magic Stick. When it comes to sex, don't test my skills, because my head game have you head over heels, give a nigga the chills, have him pay my bills. And again, Little Kim, Magic Stick. Praise for the anthem that raised me from a makeshift mattress lumped together by throw pillows. Basement hookup anthem. Anthem of block parties posted up in a Black and Milds hold. Anthem to remind me there's value to my hips in motion. My ass in motion buoys on the mist in any dewy eye. And that summer, mama handed me hand-me-down Jordache jeans, and I wore them to sit my denim ass in the bowl of the neighbor boy's crotch. What did I own then with a silver hook of desire reeling me in. Teens gathered on the transformers till dark, despite the heat, despite nothing between us but the angling need to be seen as someone not cramped six to a one-room apartment, mama sleeping each night beside a man she didn't love. That summer, the neighbor boy plucked irises from the sign outside our complex for a chance to rest his hand on the copper pennies of my brown, growing breast. I learned then all the trinkets a body can conjure: private jets, Tiffany silverware sets, a palette, and a place to call home. I'm reading mostly odes today. I really wanted to kind of be in an ode mood, so it's all odes today. Maybe I was picking up on some of the energy Ashley was putting down with the love poem beginning. Maybe. I like that. All right. Ode to my neighbors. This poem is for anybody who has ever lived in an apartment with really thin walls. You've been a single step in the morning's wine blue, a mechanical howl from a faucet, sizzle of iron skillet and heat-hungry pans. The first time I heard your muffled grunts through the walls, my chest thumped its warren of rabbits, my fingers gripped the bed's bare edge, and your moan, like silk pulled from the magician's throat, wrapped its gauzy fingers around my leaping lungs to remind me humans make love sounds too. So this, the first of many lessons you've taught me, the second, that I'm too fond of illusions of being alone, that I've taken for granted the unbroken boundary of these sweet cream walls, assumed that a foot of asbestos and drywall might swallow every clamor and come. When I realized you were having sex, I fumbled for my cell phone, searched for songs to drown your lust rattles clacking my walls, then stopped. Remembered my own bold cries shored up in silence, arguments with my partner, late night movie jags until the screen glowed with the spun gold sun, or the time I threw up a shrimp wrap. The tail hooked my throat soft meat until I barked a strangled seal. You bore those sounds with saintly patience. And you're the only neighbors to never use your lines. Many nights on the way to the dumpster or the car, I've glanced up at the light warmed in your rooms, revered your headboard, your golden lamp, slender view of your love-blued neck sauntered from room to room. I've cried in need of love before. The night after the night in blazing Charlottesville, 2 days of hateful faces on my feed, voices licked from the newsreel, a vengeful flame. I was afraid, but out of toilet paper. So I drove to Walmart, haunted by figments of hands on a torch's neck. I cried before I ever left the lot. I would have welcomed any display of love then, would have lined up in the produce aisle to watch you bareback on the bananas, doggy on the dates, would have cradled your love cries like a newborn, would have nursed its miracle. Show me, sweet neighbors, what it means to love loud enough for everyone. Cup the chalice of your hips, vine that ooh, baby, praise across the grapes again. The produce displays sway in church choir harmony, pious plums, tomatoes unbridled and blushing, kiwis who turn their one emerald eye in witness, their seeds twinkling hallelujahs in jade. Oh, man, I think I have 3 poems. 3 poems left. 3 poems. I think I'll read one more from the book, and then I'll read a couple of poems that I haven't gotten to read in a while that I feel like I really intensely want to read. I hope that you're doing okay in the virtual audience, in the virtual world. I'm really happy you're here. Even if you're tuning in later, I'm happy you're here. So this is the last poem I'll read from the book. Sometimes fat girl takes showers in the dark. Earlier this year, The black hole at the center of our galaxy blinked a record brightest, a flash unfurling its warbler wings, light escaped and pouring from a clenched fist, still not as bright as the bulbs that wheeze above my mirror, orbiting the naked sun, my body torch, sweat marring my underbreast, my dimpled knees, even the shadows squeezed between my thighs. I flip the switch. What does my body love more than tricks of light? My body almost human in the right mood, breasts downturned and bashful, a smile webbed in the fat between each hip, or my body nature heavy, silver rivers stretching down my wrists, tributaries iridescent with fish, my back craggy with black water. I want to praise what hides in the dark. Quasars and neutron stars cracking into the universe like fresh eggs, my gut deshaped by dark, a stubborn spark, and the hunger birthing my world. Okay, last two poems. Thank you for tuning in. Second last poem, Jelly Donut, or A Fat Ode for Unruliness. Fryer fresh, the yeast dough proofs balloons in cinnamon heat, batter buttered, harpooned with jam, a red wound blistering my thumb. I want to be this messy, to break the lines, ruling my body, to loosen fat, black, and opulent pools. I sex and axe my gilded nails through a lumbering throat, and I crop top to coquette my blubber, my bust. My profile is a perfect parabola. My thighs bred below the hemline of my shorts, and I love them deep brown, oiled with sun, sweat sweetened, wet hips swollen like berries. When I Jezebel in the marmalade light of a street lamp drilling through my window, I strip skin, boo hag on the dreamy death breath of a dark room. And when I say I love the moon, I mean I've dreamt of tongue punching its gloomy craters, rock marked curves globuled with spit, and this, the love I give, violently oozing and everywhere. Last poem, thank you for tuning in. This is Moon Pie, or A Fat Ode to Pussy and Marshmallows. Forgive me, this habit of feeding food into sex, but I hunger proudly on my backside alone, shame sugaring my eating habit since grade school, soft girl, hips buttering, eating like I was owed something sticky, so my pussy must be moon pie, nickname my love below like celestial honeypot, candy mountain, every language has a sweet for my sweetie, meat muffin, smelly jelly, yeast cake, yum yum, Switzerland and its sweet bun, Spain and its figs, Japan, whose euphemistic manju plumes in the mouth feather wide. Did you know there are marshmallow girls wheeling on the cover of Tokyo Times, eye-popping and pastel prints? Do they know all the euphemisms for fat girls, big girl, curvy girl, fluffy too, or my personal favorite, thicker than a Snicker, which reminds me, maybe my taffy puller proffers different flavors. Chocolate, yes, but also strawberry, banana, maybe spiced rum for Christmas, salted caramel sprinkled on a beachside salt gem straight from the sea. I know that much salt intake ain't great for my sugar basin, but I can hardly think of moon pies without sacrifice, without pigs rode by the butcher knife, snouts buoyant as marshmallows, bones masticated to a gelatin bloom. I know what it's like to be quartered. I know a gaze can blade the way I've cubed golden mangoes in my kitchen. One sickled stare I sever into nectars. My stomach smacks a melon flush, but I want most to be marshmallow. Because as a teenager on my first camping trip in a friend's backyard, we piled by her fire pit to roast s'mores, but I was new to fire. Every sizzle pop bungled the bravery in me. I jolted, dropped my sweet treat in the lapping flames. My friends laughed beside me. I watched the fire feed a new hunger, the kind I would only see in mirrors, wishing a single thought could send everything in smoke. But I would guard My marshmallow, considerate vigil for the shame of losing and being seen. Marshmallow darkening in the shadow of their smiles. Who doesn't know how to roast a marshmallow? My cheeks funnel failure into a kind of heat. We crisp under dumb gazes, both of us, at the cusp of being completely consumed by carbon. And when the wood in the fire pit cracks in autumn scent to sweater slow death around us, my marshmallow refuses to martyr, unbuckles the impressive heat from the fire's flame, bursts. An everyday miracle. Finding a bell pepper budded in your bell pepper, or a note forgotten in a winter coat, glory of a new mole cradled between moon pie and thigh, and then marshmallow. How it gasped, grew, plump meat, bulging new in the heat. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Diamond. That was an unbelievable ride just now. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. All right. Our final poet for the evening is upcoming, but I want to say if anyone has any questions for our poets, please place them in the chat and we will definitely ask them away. So we made it to our final poet, Cortney Lamar Charleston. Cortney's poems have appeared in a range of publications, including Poetry Magazine, the American Poetry Review, the Kenyon Review, Granta, and The Nation. A Pushcart Prize-winning poet, Cortney has received a Ruth Lilly and Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Fellowship from the Poetry Foundation, as well as fellowships from Kavikanam, the Conversation Literary Festival, and the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. His debut full-length poetry collection, Telepathologies, was selected by D.A. Powell for the 2016 Saturnalia Books Poetry Prize and released in March 2017. So we have the distinct honor of having two Saturnalia Book Poetry Prize winners this evening. His second full-length collection, Doppelgangbanger, was released in February 2021 by Haymarket Books. So without further ado, put your hands together for Cortney Lamar Charleston.
Hey, thank you, Len, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. And shout out to Ashley and Diamond for all the beautiful work thus far. It's an honor and a pleasure to get to reconnect with y'all virtually. And I look forward to reconnecting again on the other side of calamity and foolishness in person when we're able to do that, because it's been a while since I've seen both of you. So it's just been a wonderful night. So thank y'all. I'm not going to talk too much then. I'm just going to read mostly from my most recent release, Doppelgangbanger, which came out earlier this year, back in February. And if time permits, I will close with a poem kind of looking back towards the South, coming home. So thank you all for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the poems. All right. First up, hip hop introspective. Starting point, South Side, Chicago, mid-90s, the glory days, rocking my high top fade. I'm mesmerized by a poster on my uncle's wall. The black tinted sunglasses, Jamaican dreads, young Stevie Wonder sitting beside the smiling Bob Marley, looking like two sides of a DJ's vinyl, something to be sampled, cut, and sold like substances I'm not wise to yet. When records spin, I listen. This is how children learn here, how they come into everything they already are. See, my classmates and I come from all over, from something, from nothing, but come to the same school, on the same bus, religiously, as though we were actually confirmed Catholics. Every day, our ears dialed into 107.5 WGCI, every ride repeating every word, nodding our heads like we have naps on the brain. Nappy or not, the bus speakers are blowout cones. We are Afro-American kids. The music more fitting for us than the collared shirts for black boys, plaid skirts for black girls. It sounded like us from the inside of our mama's wombs. New Jacks with kick, and somehow still too explicit, gritty, aggressive, skins we will grow into, to be killed softly. One girl I talk with has braids like Lauryn Hill. 6 years old, already has to let herself into her grandmother's empty apartment. Handle keys. Somewhere there is a guitar she will never play. In due time, she will be the one who tells me Tupac is dead, and a blood relation of mine soon goes in the same way, distantly from me. The Crossroads music video begins to haunt me. Biggie bites a few bullets. My next door neighbors get burglarized, not in Southside proper, though it moves closer than it already is on our daily drive. I move farther out when mom gets a better job. Dad needs a wheelchair now. A hard knock life. I miss hearing Boys to Men and Blackstreet everywhere I go. Even the name Backstreet sounds stolen to me. Meanwhile, an album on miseducation has only my pictures inside. I hide my intelligence from my peers as an act of protection. Eminem gives all of them an excuse for making conversation with me, and I hate Mathers for it for at least 4 years. Kids ask what FUBU means. White girls look at me constantly. DMX never seems to be screaming. The underground heads north on my playlist while an old poster peels away from the wall. I'm beside myself almost always. A side, B side. Etymology of gangster. And here the original one saying hello to my little friend is my own hand. Oh, so carefully cradling my equipment like an athletic cup, though likewise being a boast toward the boy in the mirror that is black but ain't buck, his jaw literally glass and needing to be freed of nerve, made to feel nada. It takes hard practice to accept the grammar of the G's body language as second nature, to represent physically how the slick replacement of the sound with an us sound simultaneously implies more effortless and more ruthless. Eric Eazy-E Wright of all people once lunched in George H.W. Bush's White House. So don't tell me about dead ends. Don't tell me about the dead, since I'm clearly one of the realest alive. All my life, church ladies have said, glorify, 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 and that was game if I ever heard it. As I see it, in a bigoted society, I've either got the respect that the homies give me, or I've got no respect at all. Plus, God forgives anyway, and Jesus was black like dude that played Nino Brown. Name a better way to make through the cold, cruel world than this. We didn't write the rules governing our lives, so we have to break them all on principle. It's been said sweet singing Frank Sinatra ran with the mafia. Al Capone's picture hangs on the wall at Portillo's, and you want to tell me the country has beef with crime when it really only has beef with me and mine. What didn't click with Ice Cube and them in y'all's heads is exactly what did in ours. Since you gave us hate, when we wanted justice, something had to come of it. Remember, energy is neither created nor destroyed, fool. So what if I'm a ruffian who would only wear a suit to my own funeral? Go on, throw that salt somewhere else. I'm your gross domestic product, America. A lie you sold yourself. Only my mama can judge me. And you wouldn't believe what I'm buying her as soon as I get on. Paradise, paradise, paradise. a big-ass crib, a white maid. Still life with crooked painting and bullet holes in grayscale. I reroute Wi-Fi signals with hair curled like copper wire. I talented 10th, top 1% of my high school class. I type of teacher's pet, some special black mascot running laps on a spinning wheel. I tongue English with a train track switch, proper syntax, and sin against it separately with kin skin. I shoot the basketball as well as white boys do. I jump when I feel like it. I politically correct fools without pity. Left hand strong arm the whole debate. I Palestinian sympathize. I stand for equality of marriage and pay, an opposite of Slim Shady. I, grassy knoll, know it all, act a bold question of trifling men. I prorate COINTEL pro coin for our big payback. I conspiracy of dead slaves given bones to fall back on. I flag America like football referees for penalties recorded in blood. I try to tackle black girls with my chapped lips and miss them all. I gospel rock and two-step. I thuggish ruggish on some ham bones. I put a suit on and shake their hands. Thank you, sir and ma'am. I pull my pants up high and then I let them sag. I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. My sister's birthday is coming up this weekend, so I'm gonna read a poem dedicated to her from the collection. This one's titled "The Ballad of Addie Walker, an African-American Girl Story" for C. Janae. I've been warned I shouldn't repeat it, but in a song hard on the subwoofer, I've heard it referred to as a box before, and she came fresh out. Brown, bubble-headed in the cutest way, with eyes like hazelnuts in pools of milk. Tossed into a dress so fast you'd have thought the doctor delivered her already wearing designer. My mom wept to finally have her firmly in her possession, her long-awaited first. Wanted to keep that little thing pretty, if not pristine, but in my case I have no idea what a boy like me does with such a doll other than refuse to carry it in the company of other boys, avoiding the need to explain it, where it comes from. The title of brother provides its own easy excuse, but it also brings the burden of boxing, protecting her body and accessories from damage, which I do dutifully and every day. But for all the strangers who stumble upon her in my absence, there's always a book companion to read in her own skin as well, a thin garment told in careful stitches. Maybe mom should have known better than to lend her to that school down the street, to spoiled kids with oily hands and leapfrog machines meant to keep them ahead of everyone else. The issue here isn't that slave is part of her story, but that suburban schoolgirls learned the word by sight alone before they could even spell their own names. And even past that, the fact that I couldn't put her back in the box again when we got her home. It would have been so useless. Her value had basically been reduced to zero. All I could do was recycle the whole episode, box brick walls, and be sorry. Doppelgangbanger. Fox Valley Mall, technically in Aurora, attracts slightly rougher edges. Your man's right here, stoners, guapo boys, and black. Girls bougie, beautiful, and brainy, taken lightly by fools only. I eye her way, but he eyes mine. Cop decoy, with badge and walkie-talkie, walking up on the envoys of decency, mom and me, to do the kid a solid. Straighten this, pull up that, enunciate. I peep his ploy, play a historian, home on his perfect white teeth, horrid contrast to his charcoal cheeks. Mom nods in that morbid way. Told you. But I don't need telling. If I'm a stereotype, I be branded Sony, Bose, not some shit Zenith did. I'm so damn smart with it, Joe. I got all my teachers' hype. And still Mom looks like she wants to light flame to my hide. She don't want me stunting as some stat been shot and died. Jesus piece. Jacob the jeweler, tell me, what faith can I afford, and is this it? Hamitic features set in diamonds are out of stock everywhere. Object permanence ain't forever for me and mines unless a play on words. Bodies like this get repossessed all the time. Objects even now. In this day and age. At my age, or more years, or less, it's seemingly no large matter at all. But let me be practical for just a moment. I could put a ring on it for a price of less than half this gaudy Hebrew head, a big rock, and that's a beautiful thought to mine. I'd like to think I'm a respectable young man. I even have a dental plan, a 401k in case I grow old and gray someday. Surely marriage would prove me a creature of love and not of hereditarily bad habits, right? I've got no real vices beyond going behind the curtains of voting booths, but I realize I can only fake belief in men for so long. In mankind's kindness, I should say. That's why I'm so tempted here. This old idea of God being with me wherever I go, like, look, my Messiah is made entirely of ice. You know, for all the swelling, for all the blood and the anger at the blood spilled that wasn't scripted by scripture. This could signal to people that God's got me on the other side. They wouldn't believe one nice thing a black woman said about me. Okay, this is the last one I will read from Doppelgangbanger, and then I'll read one more poem outside of the collection. Thank you all for bearing with me so far. This one is Self-Portrait as a Shadow for V. Lamar. Word is, I wasn't born so much as skimmed off another living thing by a source of light. Let's just say that you are light-skinned, and the back of my mom's hand is a color best worn around the eyes after a knuckles kiss. Though this fact itself is not here to imply I was born of an act of violence, but rather that I was born into violence as a cultural practice and product. And I enter post-crack, post-Reagan, when the big city newspapers sell themselves with headlines about shadow-on-shadow crime like light doesn't factor into the equation by definition, like light doesn't have a gaze upon the world called the day. Fact of the matter is, sad as the matter is, I can only see myself in relation to it, to the light. I can only move in reaction to movement, my ankles shackled to dogma that dogs me and us out from the moment of first appearance. In my case, that's June 1990, summer, maternity ward full of shadows, and from then on, I can only measure love by the number of nightmares I have in a shortened span of space and simultaneity. They all always say, I look like my daddy, which is to frame me a shadow in a related sense, which is to say your presence gives my own life definition, which is what they like to say on TV whenever some kid like me is extinguished too soon. Under the lights, I make do with all this being watched and watched over, and I make questions of it too. And I ask, and you answer. Not always well, often incompletely, but completely honest at the same time, and that is how the concept of faith clicks for me. How I learned to perturb politics and push myself into conversations like the connotation of a word or phrase, which, too, is a form of shadow, thus a part of me, who upon a lot of light shines that I take advantage of, take care that whenever they flick the switch to turn them on, themselves on, that they'll be sure to see me trailing tightly behind, keeping them on their toes like they've kept me on mine, like you always told me they would. Then for the last poem, I'm going to read this one because it just reminds me of coming back down south, reconnecting with those roots. Yeah, it's been too long. Got to do it again sometime soon. This last poem is titled Cotton Variation. Always there if I reach for relief, thick in the bottle's neck like drawl, fibrous little trauma fruit, wan little wound liquor. Body droughted to the point of dysfunction, my migrained mind tilts toward translucence, splitting every thought into image and after image as I freedom ride remix backseat. Oxford bound with brave new voices for our time, and yet it's these downy white balls of narrative thread that most separate me from customary comfort. Slick southern taunts aimed at this grandson of Mississippi born, of all unforgivables, Black and Yankee and free by the letter of the law. It hurts to consider how much hurt it took to provide its abundance here, still, hugging to the highway for miles and miles and miles into the past or the future, whichever way the head of the moving car is pointed, north or south, arbitrary. My, how strange it feels touching what homegoing is while your heart still pumps blood as a pump jack flows oil from earth, pushes another kind of gold through you, a deep glory, a shine that was suffered for, the familial histories that make you suffocated by distance, distance meaning time, meaning space, meaning maybe, deliberate decision. You know, I really wonder where Granny got her hands from. So genius in the soil. How she makes a lush garden grow on a small south side plot every spring is a soothing secret. Ghosts are real. She may be one of them, as I might be, a blurry life seen through hers. Hence my soul singing in cool flame as I stand on this ground, where my bones, or what shapes me, must already be buried between the roots of clouds. Thank you.
Thank you, dear sir. Such effortless use of language in those poems. Really appreciate you being here, Cortney, and joining us all back here. Loved having everybody. It was a wonderful reading. You guys took us through the gamut of themes like God and Jesus and hip hop, and Diamond just basically revamped the whole anatomy textbooks with all her poems. I mean, it was just, a sight to behold, So we've been posting the links to all of the poets' books, so we hope that you will run out and get them. Run, don't walk. to pick up these collections that are coming out. And also with Ashley's new collection coming out in the fall, Reparations Now. So we have just a few minutes. Don't want to prolong the time, but a few minutes to engage with the audience. Hopefully they'll have questions. We got a lot of comments coming through the chats right now. People loving you guys and showing you some much deserved praise. If you don't know me by now, I'm just all over this superhero game. So Ashley brought it up. So I'm just going to like put a period on this whole discussion of Batman and Superman, and you read the Lois Lane poem. So I just kind of want to see, I just want to test your temperature on, you know, where you guys at or here on like superheroes, because I got to know. So anybody, if the spirit moves you to go first.
I just want to reiterate Batman all day. That's my favorite. I mean, I know that he's a white superhero. My favorite black superhero is probably my grandmother's. They're not in any comic books. But if we're going with the comic books, Batman all day long.
Yes. You have been raised well, Ashley, with knowing that Batman is the greatest superhero of all time. So at me, we can talk all day long.
I mean, I kind of got to co-sign that one. Batman was always my favorite coming up. I was like, this dude ain't got no powers. This dude just out here fighting in the street. I mean, being rich is a superpower, right? So I give him that. So, but you know, that seems like a superpower that doesn't separate me from him too much, right? He's like a street level hero, which I appreciate. And not only that, but he's always had a good like the Joker's a great adversary for him as well. So that's always an interesting dynamic. Beyond Batman, I also got to shout out Spider-Man. Got to shout out Black Panther, of course. You know, Wakanda Forever. Mm-hmm. And I have a Malcolm X comic book on my shelf. So if Malcolm counts because he's in that comic, Malcolm X is a superhero because I got the comic to prove it. So there you go.
Absolutely. I can ride with all of those. I could definitely ride with those.
So I've always been ride or die for Batman, and y'all gonna think I'm corny for this? Just a little bit. Green Lantern. I got into Green Lantern really late. The movies suck. But there was something about, so if you know anything about me, I am not a person with a strong willpower at all. Like, I break easy. Like, I mean, you want me to like go to the gym? I just don't have that energy or that will, that desire. I can't do it. And so I was really kind of fascinated by like the Green Lantern and thinking about like using willpower as a source of strength. Yeah, I'm really into that. So Green Lantern. I mean, and I got Jon Stewart, so.
I don't know if you can see it, but I have the 50th anniversary Jon Stewart collection, like right there where my finger is, way in the back. Hey. But I'm not going to be like a complete nerd and go get it. But it's right, like we're talking like you're talking about the Batman animated series. Right next door, you got to look at the Justice League series.
Yes.
Where Jon Stewart was just awesome in that, and in Justice League Unlimited. But okay, we can remain friends now. I don't see any rifts happening because of that discussion.
That was a test of friendship, Len.
I mean, you know, it can really like separate some people. You know, I'm just saying.
Len's like, you didn't say Batman. You got to bounce off this reading real quick. You got to bounce off. Just go. I'm just like, okay.
Looking for the right answers. This just the right answers here.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that was good. So we were talking about like COVID and earlier on, I guess, and how it's sort of been a challenge, but I think we're coming out of it unscathed, hopefully, as far as you all. You know, what are some poems that I guess you've been relying on that are like your favorites that have helped you get through this kind of tough time? For anyone.
I'm not going to be this person, but I am going to be this person. So the poems that I've been reading, I've been reading all the classics, of course. Been reading Lucille Clifton. June Jordan has been speaking to me a lot as well. But I've also been reading this summer a lot of poems by people who submitted to poetry. And I'm just looking over here at the 3 issues that I edited. There's a lot of poems in there about the pandemic and about just surviving. And I have to shout out specifically in the July, August, let me get her title exactly right, the poet Jacqueline Trimble, who's an Alabama poet, truly a fantastic poet, but she has some poems in here about Blackness and let me get her title. Yeah, her poem, This Is Why People Burning Down Fast Food Joints and Whatnot, which is about, why Black people are burning down the country and why we should have been burning it down a long time ago and why it's going to continue to burn. And that poem and the poems that she has written that I heard her read over the summer really kind of empowered me to keep fighting, even if I'm fighting, on a Zoom call, even if I'm fighting in my syllabus, even if I'm fighting, I don't know, in a Facebook comment. However, that's been really amazing. And just to know that the community of poets is still active and vibrant. And even though I can't see these people, physically sometimes, and especially not here in Alabama because things are getting a little wild again, I know that they're still there and we're still showing up, not only in our state, but everywhere. We're showing up on national stages as well.
Yeah.
Then,
Go ahead, Diamond. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think for me, I was like, I don't know if it's like it's a classic choice. So I don't even know if it's I almost don't want to say it out loud, you know what I'm saying? But one that just always reinvigorates the spirit for me is the Sermon on the Work Plan by Gwendolyn Brooks, right? I'll come back to that poem and just kind of sit in it for a little bit. And it just always does something positive for me. Which is not to discount, all the greats. Ashley shouted out June Jordan. In a time like this, June Jordan's work really hits different. You know what I'm saying? It hits all the time, but it hits different when you're going through what we've been going through. So I think June is another great shout out for these times, especially Lucille. And I don't know. I've been turning to poems that just make me feel good about my Blackness. You know what I mean? I recorded a video earlier this year for a high school thing, and I was talking about Terrence Hayes's "We Should Make a Documentary About Spades," and how that made me feel right about myself. And it was a poem I can only unlock through the fact that I have the experience that it's talking about, that it's documenting. And it was a poem that wasn't for everybody, but was for very specific bodies. You know what I'm saying? So those are just a few that come to mind. So I'll shut up and let Diamond say something. But there we go.
No, that's beautiful. Can you just talk for me? I'd appreciate it. I guess kind of the lack of sort of external forces acting on me has been kind of making me kind of turn inward a lot. So of course I'm really kind of thinking about the body and thinking about how do I sort of thrive within my body. So I've definitely been going back to Lucille Clifton, but also artist Bethany White. I've been sitting with her work quite a bit. My God, amazing. Also, Simone Person has a chapbook called Smoke Girl. Oh my God, I cannot wait for her full length. So that's who I've been kind of going back to over and over again as I kind of meditate through the body, for sure.
Shout out to Artress, for real. Such an amazing poet.
Incredible. Nasty with language. Wow. Thank you. Thrive. Yeah.
Yeah, those are some phenomenal choices. I think poetry has gotten a lot of people through this pandemic, even virtually and in this platform. But I think personally, I just feel like it's brought people closer with all the virtual readings and things. Granted, we're not all burnout from screen time or having to wear these things so that we preserve our eyesight. But, it's really, I think, brought me closer with poets like yourselves and just people across the country, the world even, that share some of the same values and artistry that we all do and love. So I said, did you guys remember Jay-Z's Moonlight video? I was kind of thinking about this before the reading, that how he had like all of the young Black Hollywood actors and actresses in the video, kind of like in the set of Friends. That kind of what that reminded me of before this reading. You guys are like the young Black Hollywood of poetry, is what I see. Is what I see you as right now. Y'all are doing.
Thank you for including me in that, and also in young, because I mean, the years they pass.
Still got it.
Born in 1990. I mean, I'm only 30, but I don't know. It's a lot of younger people in the world. The older I get, so
Yeah. You still got it. You're still on the throne.
Thank you.
So I guess we'll close out now. If I'm not seeing many questions in the chat, but thank you all so much for doing this and giving your time and sharing your talents with our audience here at Carolina Poets, and really wish you well the rest of this year with all your projects and things you have going on. So I want to say thank you to the audience for attending. Hashtag Poetry Goes Viral reading series hosted by Carolina Poets and Wits in Poetry. We host readings on the second and fourth Thursday of each month. We feature both established poets and emerging poets. I'd like to thank our readers for their participation and you for watching. Check out the links of the poets' work in the chats, and please support them by buying their work, and not only that, but sharing their work with others. And until next time, we appreciate you and see you soon. Take care.